Born to be Stravog. That's right, these clan bastards are going to throw the pedal to the metal and show these Inner Sphere dogs just what it means to be a clanner. In this 20,000 point brush up, I have got the short end of the straw as I am bringing two 10,000 point lists. You can see a heavy bruiser assault list in there and a much more traditional, at least for me, light clan list. And on the Stravog side of the spectrum, we have Memphis Mark running a medium Inner Sphere elite list with that rather formidable Glory tank, and a newcomer to the group who, this is his very first game, is running an equitably terrifying list. It's just a little bit heavier. This is just a pretty standard matchup, a pickup game. We're throwing 20,000 points against another 20,000 points and just seeing what kind of damage we can do before we inevitably get called by our respective better halves and we all go home. We're using a form of setup where the slowest unit has to set up on the first full hex, and then we just move up the movement track until we get to the fastest units. And as you can see, the Inner Sphere have positioned themselves such that they got two core groups anchored by the Atlas and the Marauder, and as the movement track went up, we ended up having to put nearly, or at least the Jade Falcons, myself, needed to put nearly the entire assault star all at one go, and we grouped them up all in that one little area right over there. That Hellstar, Bane, Nightwolf, and Madcat are going to be quite an opposition to our Inner Sphere counterparts. Meanwhile, on the Inner Sphere side of the board, they managed to split out some of their lighter screening assets to provide a flanking asset on either side of the heavier assets, and we have responded in kind similarly, but we've also grouped them up a little bit tighter. They're not quite as distant. We're not presenting as wide a flank as the Inner Sphere is. And as to be expected of any good player, in the initiative track, the slow units move first. At long range, we're very rarely going to commit anything of notable value. We're not going to play our hand too quickly with the fast units to show just exactly where we're going. But my logic from this point forward, in especially the Jade Falcon is concerned, I'm not really too concerned about his flanking assets flanking my assault mechs. I'm going to just use my lighter assets as a skirmishing force to try to, counter whatever his light assets are doing. And if possible, make sure his light assets are too busy tying up, trying to chase down my otherwise faster movers in his rear areas. Now, the strategy we're going to try to apply here is not very clan-like, but it is definitely very effective. We're going to try to move things forward, and that Bane is loaded with smoke munitions. We're going to isolate off the different sections of the assault lances, or at least the heavier elements of the Inner Sphere, so that we can single out one side or the other. And as movement moves forward, we can see that there's a bigger chunk of units on one side than the other, and it's going to be much easier to single out the Marauder and just deal with it one at a time with his escorts, and then deal with everything else. So we're going to start laying smoke at these green dice right here in the center of the board, and let the Bane hopefully, because with clan assault mechs I can't use maneuver or at least speed to get out of the way of the unequal exchanges, I'm going to use smoke to otherwise be an asset to help me move, or at least apply a blocking line of fire where movement otherwise would have allowed me. It's kind of the Lyran approach to things when you think about it. I mean, I can't outrun or outmaneuver, so I'm just going to kind of build ad hoc fortifications on the field. Clan Assault Star, for the most part, stays grouped up, but then splits off as we allow the Nightwolf and Uller to start swinging wide to be a heavier flanking asset. We're going to try to take on the Fury, and again, we're going to use the otherwise fast-ish movement of the Nightwolf and try to use those rocks on the side to take care of it, because I don't want him to, gang up if something goes horribly wrong for the core assault mechs, that he's scot-free. So we're going to go ahead and split them up just a little. Most of the smoke munitions go off, and surprisingly, one of them doesn't. I'm not sure what he was aiming at. I mean, he's aiming at the ground as a tertiary target. It should have hit, but if memory recalls, he rolled snake eyes. I can't win them all, right? A lot of shots actually got traded in this turn, and nothing really happened. It happened to take quite a while to actually get through, all things considered. So we start moving forward. We're going to use the hill right in front of us for the Hellstar to kind of bunker down and shoot at what he can, and we're going to keep laying down smoke so that he can't use that hill like I am. So even though that he's hunkering down behind it, he looks like he's safe. We still got lots of smoke out of that bane. I mean, firing at full rate, that thing is emptying a whole ton of ammo every turn. It's just ridiculously fun. And if in the comments you'd like to mention it, I could completely understand if somebody said I brought team no fun because, well, I got a Hellstar and a Bane C. It's kind of on the crazy end of the BV efficient scale. He begins moving his units forward, trying to protect himself from behind the smoke, which is an interesting decision that we should discuss later. I move a lot of my other assets up forward, and the Locust 2C starts engaging and skirmishing with his Centurion. We're going to try to keep it slow. Other light assets on the southern end of the board starts tangling with his Cicada and Jenner. Again, that's a very interesting fight. I wish I put a lot more attention into it because it's a touch and go game. It's a cat and mouse because he can't afford to push too far forward, otherwise I'm going to flank him, and I can't push too far forward, or otherwise I'm just going to give a lot of easy shots to that Archer and Atlas that are otherwise preoccupied with trying to take on their equals on the other side of the board. That's just something you never want to do. You never want to give your opponent something, you know, nothing better to shoot at. So the Shadow Cat and Grendel do what they can to try to protect themselves from, you know, random shots, and meanwhile tie up the lighter assets. And in that engagement, they actually make a very interesting play with the Cicada jumping far into the rear arc of the Grendel. If he shoots and connects, that could be devastating. But fortunately for the clan, he doesn't. It ended up hitting on 11s or something like that. A lot of shots are really hard to hit against any fast moving light. It's something that you need to be very aware of. In fact, that kind of statistical shield is the only thing keeping a lot of those units alive. And there's some units like the Locust 2C, which generally shouldn't live too long because it's a one-way glory machine. With all its heavy small lasers, it has to get up close and personal, and it does, swinging around the Centurion, trying to, I don't know, do another one of those Musashi honor duels right into the back. It should be great. And as he opens up his guns on the Centurion, he tags with nearly every weapon in the inventory. It's awesome. And he manages also to get shot at by just about everything. After a very calculated effort by moving the Marauder, our opponents decided, you know what? It's pretty obvious what I'm doing. I've got 3 assault mechs that are singling out the Marauder. This would be the second turn in which they're just kind of shooting at it at random. And it's pretty clear that I'm going to do quite a bit of damage to it if he doesn't do something. So he moves the Marauder off in an attempt to try to get away from that fusillade of fire, and I've got only maybe another turn or two to take care of it until I have to send skirmishers to chase it down, because the Marauder is slow, but it's fast enough to get away from this kind of shenanigans. And then I'm going to have to deal with all of his skirmishing forces, and that's not good. We want to make sure that the clan assault mechs are always engaging their equal and lesser. It's the honorable thing to do. You don't want an even fight. Come on. Right now it's 3-1, and we want to keep it that way. So he makes a very calculated move to move him away and try to shoot at the Locust just for a turn. He manages to connect with the Locust quite a few times, but he does not put it down. It puts a lot of holes in the Locust. If memory serves, he almost takes a leg off. Unfortunately for the otherwise suicidal Locust pilot, he does not manage to do a whole lot of damage to the Centurion. Even though everything connects, a lot of it goes to like the arms and stuff. It's very, very bittersweet. But again, this is one of those things where that mech has to be close. If you're doing your light assets skirmishing against heavier units just right, you need to be about, a lot of people might dispute this, but I'm going to be about 7 to 10 hexes away and do everything you can to try to make sure that against the inner sphere, you're always playing a little bit of the range so that his secondary munitions, which he probably has a lot of, like medium laser spam, is always going to be hitting on something like 10 or 11s. And that's as good as anything. It's as good as you're going to get. And as the fusillade from 3 clan assault mechs starts ranging in on the Marauder, they manage to rip it apart, tearing off an arm, putting all kinds of internal structure damage on it, and in the subsequent PSR causes them to fall over. Oh, it's just good. That's exactly what we wanted. We needed to put all kinds of damage on it. And meanwhile, the Nightwolf manages to take a long-range shot, opens up with a lot of different weapons, misses with nearly everything, but he does connect with the plasma cannon, and plasma cannons do all kinds of damage to vehicles, but it goes way beyond what was absolutely necessary to, put it down, and hits it with the plasma cannon, does like 14 damage or something crazy like that, and one of those happens to be a side crit. And that crit goes straight to engine shutdown. It does the engine damage, which would otherwise cause a lot of problems for the crew, but enforced withdrawal is going to cause them to immediately abandon the vehicle. So it's a good turn for the clan as we manage to put smoke down on the hill, completely invalidating the reason why they have that hill there to protect them. We take down one of the vehicles, and we cause so much damage to the Marauder, it's almost a mission kill. Innersphere continues their strategy of pushing forward, at least through the smoke, and using the smoke to their advantage, which is an okay play. In fact, I would suggest if you have like a one-shot SRM or something on a artillery platform, to load it with smoke and just hit the target near you or something. You can't target your own hex, but you can target a hex next to you and just walk into it. And it's like, keeping your own little heavy woods wherever you want. So the Marauder immediately turns around and starts limping away as, as hobbled as it is right now. It tries to get up and go. Marauder turns around, begins heading back as hobbled as it is. Glory turns around, tries to play the little bit of an interdiction role, but then I point out it's actually dead, and the crew decides, let's go home. There's barbecue at home, right? Lots of tasty barbecue. Better than staying on the field with these, clan death machines that, as of this moment, have just obscured most of the field and are just lighting up everything that they see. Pick your flavor of poison. I actually would agree with the crew. This is not a great place to be at this point. I mean, the Nightwolf from downtown just launched sticky death all over the machine. I'm surprised a lot of the crew even got out. And the clan plan continues to unfold as we keep our light assets in the back, with the Nightwolf in the back, the Locust, and the Fire Falcon moving into the rear arc. His screening and interference forces now turn around as the Bushwhacker now moves back and gets danger close to the Fire Falcon. We begin descending everything we can onto that screening unit. Again, the clan heavy units can handle themselves. They're going to take on anything that they can see. And right now we've got that one awkward turn where the smoke is now covering the Marauder, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that. So he sends his Centurion forward in an attempt to get behind my units, and that's really annoying because we've plugged it full of holes, but it's just not going down. So I see an opportunity for glory, and I let the Mad Cat try to get rear arc shots on the Centurion. I let the light elements on the southern end of the board seize the initiative and move forward, trying to take some opportune shots at the Atlas that decided to run to get up the hill. And meanwhile, his interference units decide that they're going to turn around and try to get some of their own juicy justice against the clan units, and I respond in kind. I let the Shadowcat jump over to try to do a little bit of damage to the Jenner. I do the mods in my head, and I realize that the odds of any of them hitting anything are pretty insignificant, but the fact that they are where they are is significantly influencing how they move and where they move them, and that is just good enough for me. Even the Locust 2C, having recently been liberated from having to chase down the Centurion, goes ahead and chases down the Marauder, just as I said it would have to. We're going to have to send off all the finishing duties to killing off that Marauder, which is pretty egregiously damaged to just the skirmishing forces that I can relieve to do that duty. Our buddy Don decides to take a lot of his shots against the targets that he can see, and it's amazing. Up until this point, a lot of his shots have been either 10 pluses or 8 pluses. And you know, a 7 or 8 plus, that's roughly 50-50. And he should be hitting those. And he's been hitting like 25% of those. We did a lot of statistics in this game. And his dice were just sour. Even the Jenner had some pretty good odds, hitting on like 10s or 11s with those medium laser spams, and hits nothing against the Grendel in front of him. And the Grendel is just, I mean, it's a 7-11-7 platform. It's just so fast. It's so awesome. So it just leaps across the board with its hideous mods while we do a lot of math on trying to see what the Atlas can actually shoot and what are the odds, because it's actually split up. It has much better odds shooting at the Locust that is chasing down the Marauder than it does the Grendel that's going to chew up its backside. But we did the odds, and we figured, you know, it's probably better that it actually shoots its rear lasers at the Grendel, and that's what they do. And of course everything misses, and the Locust 2C in reaction chews up the Marauder, ripping up the torso, taking out the internal structure, and damaging the engine. Good kill, good kill. The Intersphere Centurion, as brave as he is, gets into the absolute thick of the clan assault mechs, and because of the smoke, we really don't have a whole lot better to shoot at, so everyone decides to unload on him, except for, I do believe, the Hellstar, which had some pot shots at targets downrange. He does not connect with anything. He has not connected with anything this entire game. Mad Cat turns around, tries to get his glorious rear shots on the Centurion, misses with everything. Except I do believe a medium laser, but it doesn't really matter. The Bane C, however, has ate his Wheaties today as he turns around and unloads his 8 LRM-15s and connects with like 6 of them, and manages to rip the torso completely open on the Centurion, causing several crits, and does absolutely nothing. I mean, it's full of more holes. At this point, it's more holes than mech. But despite this, the Centurion is just the hero pilot of the day as he opens up with his rack AC-5, fires a full rate of 6, because, you know, why not, and manages to connect with the Bane, dealing, I don't know, a pittance of damage. The Bane C has a lot of armor, but it does cause a PSR, and the PSR is something that the Bane was not expecting, apparently, and falls over. Ooh. And as the hero Centurion continues to play Bonnie Tyler on the rear area of the clan assault mechs, will he survive? Will he manage to make his presence felt way beyond his weight as the smoke clears and the Intersphere assault mechs begin making their presence felt? Will he survive? Let's find out. This Snow Raven assault mech functions just like you would expect a Snow Raven assault mech to do. Can you guess what it is? That's right, it's the Deimos! You'd expect a little bit more from a clan that has a lot of resources, but you'd be wrong. It makes a great flak platform, though. As we begin the next turn, the position for the clan is starting to look a little bit more tenuous than it was before, though it's still pretty good. Bagging the glory early on was a little bit fortuitous. Taking out the Marauder also went well according to plan, and making the Centurion a little bit more like Swiss cheese was perhaps the best we could actually hope for, though actually putting it out of commission probably would have been the best. But we do have wind billowing in our favor. Blowing the smoke ever gently towards our position forces the Intersphere player to already take their 2-hit mods and kind of ruin them even more, as now they have to walk or run to get beyond the smoke in order to be able to engage us. It's an interesting play. They might want to be able to sit in the smoke or just move beyond it, but it is an interesting decision for them to make, and it's something that we're going to have to compensate for as they move forward. The archer leaps to a forward position on top of a hill, getting a commanding area from which he can shoot everything below. The Centurion swings behind the Bane as he decided to throttle back and just gain a little bit of distance. It's not a really great close range performer, while the Griffin manages to, again, surprise myself as even existing, and moves up right next to the Mad Cat. I mean, it's not a close range brawler, but he's well, I mean, what can you do? The Inner Atlas tries to move away from the smoke and protect himself from the fusillade of the clan forces downrange. It is in my impression that Don got a little bit spooked by all the clan light assets that are now flooding that section of the board, but the reality is that they'll only take a pot shot at him if they could afford to, because there's just too much armor on that thing to really deal with for more than one turn, especially when the Cicada and the Jenner are out there just marauding. And since the Cicada managed to jump behind the hill the turn before in an effort to protect itself, and it was kind of a short-sighted move, since it allowed the other clan assets to just sort of team up and shoot at the Atlas at will. At this point, we were going over the finer points with Dawn about some mechs that have like really great ability to just kind of flip their arms, in which case this game had several instances of mechs just kind of flipping their arms, and in this game, this one turn, I think we had 3 or 4 mechs to do it. The Bane C flips his arms to just unload on that Centurion that decided to get behind him. The Nightwolf flips his arms to engage the mechs that have started to engage behind him. That turns into a brouhaha, but the Nightwolf has so much armor. I mean, it can soak it for a turn and probably deal with all those forces by itself. And the Jenner also flips his arms to engage the Grendel that decided to get up behind him. It's just crazy. Even the Shadow Cat manages to turn around and start shooting at the Jenner, though he doesn't flip his arms, but he does do a lot of damage to the Jenner. But in those arm-flipping shenanigans, the Bane C unloads 7 LRM-15s into the Centurion, and what didn't kill him before sure as hell killed him this time, as I cause, if memory calls, 5 criticals to his left torso. And those of you, keeping track at home can go ahead and take a look at the record sheet of that particular Centurion variant and tell me what would happen. We go ahead and go back and forth trying to look for the stack pull rules to see if we can't make his fusion reactor blow up as some sort of consolatory measure, because he's right next to the Bane. And sadly enough, we couldn't cause enough criticals to the engine to cause the stack pull rule to kick off. Though it would have been great, because it would have caused something like 120 damage to the Bane. And the Hellstar, with erstwhile nothing better to do, actually has a clean line of fire against the Atlas in what was probably a severe oversight on their part. When it was happening, I didn't say anything. The Hellstar has been sitting there for a while, just taking shots. I mean, it's kind of risky to send a clan mech just to not move. But I mean, we're hulled down behind that hill. He has a clean line of fire against the Atlas, hits with all the PPCs. But it's an Atlas, it's going to weather it, but we're using that stacking PSR roll, and at the end it had like a +4, +5 PSR. It was nuts, and he's going to fall down for the effort. We don't manage to open it up, but we do so much damage to it that it can't face anything without having significant fear of it being breached. The Nightwolf manages to shrug off all the damage coming at it, and between it and its buddy the Uller managed to put quite a bit of damage against the Bushwhacker that was following around. The Fire Falcon also manages to limp off this turn. It took a hip critical the turn before, and it's almost a mission kill. And that was kind of the only damage when we finally decided to call the game. At that point, the Fire Falcon was still working just fine. He received a kick from the Bushwhacker the turn before, but it was the only one that had any kind of problems, and that was enforced withdrawal. On their side, their Atlas was nearly destroyed, or at least they had a lot of concern. If you were role-playing it, you'd want to pull it back. And they had lost the Glory, the Marauder, the Centurion, and the rest of their forces were pretty badly dinged up. On the clan side, we lost nothing. Well, the hip actuator. At that point, the game is just really lopsided, and there's something to be said that their dice just weren't really with them. There was a lot of shots that they should have took, or should have been able to hit, and they just didn't. But on the corollary, the shots almost didn't matter. I mean, they were making shots against the lights, and the lights were, again, always staying about 7 to 10 hexes away, always getting their maximum +3, +4 mod, and even with all the batteries of secondaries that the Inner had, they just couldn't land enough consistent hits to put anything down. Now, given another turn of fire or so, the Uller probably would have had problems. It had no more armor on one of its legs, and the Fire Falcon was definitely going to be running away at some point in time. Now, I don't mean to pat myself on the back too much, because I'm usually pretty down on it on clan assault mechs against intersphere engagements. I think it's usually a waste of time, but this smoke and isolate maneuver worked really well. Way better than I would have ever thought. It was pretty clear that they were just being cut up and everything was going to fall apart for them. Not that I expect this to work again anytime soon. I expect to see a lot more smoke in further games, but I guess I'm just kind of hypothesizing. Well, this has been an Ouchies Batrep, and thanks for watching.
You gotta just duct those tears right into the heat sinks to help the mech cool off. Yep. Alright, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 9 X's away off of the Hellstar.
Oh, you're gonna shoot at him and not the armor?
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah, that's what you said.
No mod.
Yeah.
Did I say 9 X's? Because that's sad. Nuts. 6. Hitting on 6s.
Oh.
Yeah, that's just disgusting.
Wait a minute, who's shooting?
Hellstar shooting the...
Oh, okay.
Absolutely disgusting. So everything hits.
Oh, jeez.
Oh.
So that's a +3 PSR right there. Well, look at it. This is all to your left side.
All to my left side, okay.
So, right arm, these are 15-point clusters.
Oh my god, okay, so right arm. I don't even know how to start.
Nice thing about this is the Atlas will probably take
Yeah, he can take this.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15.